Hello, I'm NBG and welcome to the channel. Today's video, I'm kind of just going out of nowhere. I'm not scripting it, I'm not going over it. I had some comments in a recent couple videos that kind of struck me, not because they're bad or anything, but just because I'm starting to hear and feel other people's frustration with the crafting system and where it's at, both in like general terms as well as you're just trying to make some gold, right? You're a casual player and you're trying to make some gold. This is something that I've wanted to talk about, but I was kind of waiting to talk about until things started fleshing out more. But as I've had some conversations on Discord and other places, it's not going in a good direction for somebody who's casual. And I want to talk about that, right? And I'll talk about a whole bunch of little things and just little things that pop up to me, and I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but there is a lot to talk about and go into today. This is the kind of video that I'd really appreciate comments on, to try to get other people's opinion, to try to get just more conversation about it, because I do think it's important, because even myself, I would argue I'm casual and I'm playing an awful lot, and I'm not set up to make the tremendous amounts of gold. I know a lot of people will be like, well, you made a gold cap in a week. That's, yeah, I get it. But you know what? There's a lot of people doing a lot more, and they've taken advantage of bugs and taken advantage of different things, and I will be forever behind, and that's frustrating. And you know, a lot of you are probably frustrated with how much setup I have on my account to make some gold right now, because you feel like you're forever behind. So with that, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the TLDR of this video is professions are not good for casuals. They're not good for casuals in terms of gold making, that is. And we're just going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and probably right here throw up some of the comments that I had on recent videos. And the one that really struck me the hardest, that I was like, wow, I really feel like I need to talk about this, was a comment that said that wasn't, talking about they weren't supposed to be a troll, but I realized the YouTube comment, which nearly always comes across as such, what I hoped for was not possible, which was giving a chance for a person with casual time limitations to utilize a more robust crafting system to make your regular income crafting. But instantly, it was min-maxed, markets flooded by hardcore content clearing for mats. And that comment really, really struck me, because in all honesty, that's what I hoped for as well. Is if I take you back to prior to 9.2.7, prior to the auction house merger, at that point in time, I thought, as a fairly casual player, I spent 30 minutes to an hour crafting each day. I was coming home with, 100K plus in profits every single day, and I was like, wow, look at this. I'm making really good gold. I've kind of figured out a routine. I'm not trying too hard. I'm kind of just making what the market dictates, and that's kind of what brought me into maybe I should make WoW videos to help others who, work full-time jobs and don't have as much time to play, and so on and so forth. So I started going that route because I felt like I was doing something positive. Now, in terms of not being able to craft and make income, I think the number one problem is the region-wide auction house. I don't think anybody or any of you can sell me that the region-wide auction house is a good thing. Somebody might say, well, I can post all my mats and they get bought instantly. Okay. All right. Or you can have them posted and wait a little bit longer and get more gold for them. Regardless of how you're getting your gold, you're still spending the same amount of time getting the materials, right? I don't see how that... It's like saying, you can come work for me. Work for 1 hour. I'll give you $10, right? Straight away. Hour's done, I hand you $10. Done. Instant. Or you can come work for me for 1 hour, and I'll give you $30, but you gotta wait a week. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm waiting for the money. It's more money. Still the same time. The waiting is not time spent actually farming or doing the goods or doing anything like that. Waiting is just waiting. And you know what? And if people post ahead of you and you might have to repost, God forbid. Like, I don't see it as an issue. I hate the region-wide auction house. And that's coming from somebody who's made an awful lot of gold, I feel. I still hate it because if this was server specific, I would have more opportunities to make gold. I wouldn't have to go as hard. There might be a specific niche that I'm able to see, maybe a certain flask, maybe a certain something that like isn't getting supplied quite as highly, and maybe on my server it's worth a bit more and it's worth more of my time. But now you can't make crap and post it because it's all a regional wide commodity, and if there ever is any profit there, it's nuked instantly. Instantly, it's gone because either people have jumped on it, or you have a massive amount of price fixing. Like look at, I'm sure we all know everything that's gone on with like Awakened Earth, right? With all the price fixing and stuff there. This bounces from 350 gold, yeah. This bounces from 350 gold to over 1,000 because of price fixing and other things like that. That's one example. Look at something like Fang Adornments. Man, I bet you I can make a killing on these if these were server specific. Because then I'd have the ability to craft them. They would sell a lot slower, right? But I wouldn't have to sit here and craft and push. I could craft a batch and then post mine. Like, there's only 296 of these available region-wide. That's kind of insane. That's really not that much. Which is kind of why they're one of the only things I found to have profit, to be honest, is because there's less people pushing them. But, something like this, I would be able to then, I mean, God, how many of these are on my server? Probably not very many. I can't even guess. Even if you averaged it out per server, how many servers are there in NA? There's probably more than 30, right? If there's more than 30, that means there's probably less than 10 per server or something, like on average. Like, it's something stupid small. But the point is if this was a server-based thing, I have a higher chance of setting the market, which means that anybody who needs that item is going to have to pay a little bit more to me, and I make more gold for my time. But like, let's take a deeper look just at the fangs. So you're telling me I can craft fangs, right? There is some profit here if I can get them relatively often. But look at what the T2 crafts for. There's 16 gold. Okay. The price is down right now, mind you. But it's still, let's say, 1,400 gold to craft. That's 1,400 gold to craft, where I'm more than likely going to get a T2. And I'm losing basically 1,400 gold. They sell for 15, and they don't exactly all sell. I have to hit T3 to even make gold. I have to. Otherwise, I'm losing. Otherwise, every single roll, I'm losing 1,000 gold plus. It's really hard for anybody who's casual to make gold that way, unless you spend an enormous amount of time perfecting your spec. In this case, pushing inspiration. For what I did with it, being able to also craft some of the other reagents that are needed cheaper, and then pushing those T3 procs and selling the amount of work that has to be put into to be able to even sell an item like this for freaking profit, I don't think should be expected of every single player. And that's kind of my point. I don't feel like it should be expected for everybody to have to min-max and push and perfect to be able to sell. I think you're asking an awful lot of a casual player. Now, what are some of the other issues with it? Well, honestly, one of the biggest issues with the entire thing is just who we are as gamers now. That's another one of the big problems. It's not just the region-wide auction house. It's the fact that no matter what we do, everything has to be min-maxed and pushed to the max. And honestly, because there's so many people who do it, if you don't, you lose. You are behind. Look at I mean, God, let's take this expansion for example. What about people who, when you were able to run like the Rathian stuff or whatever that was, and you're able to like just find other groups and like run it, and get numerous drops of gear? Those people that got ahead, you know, granted, somewhat minor, I guess, but the people who were able to do that until it was hotfixed. I didn't get to do that. I was busy working. I had a job. I was busy. I never got to take advantage of that. You know, it's that old adage of abuse early and often. What about the big one? What about the one, as somebody who's like me, who's trying to make gold, who's a crafter? What about all the people who were flipping between professions, right? I don't even, most of you probably know about this, but what you end up doing is early on you could level a profession. Granted, you had to have gold to do it, but you could level a profession, do all the profession quests, complete them all, and then you unlearn the profession and do another one. And you do that until you do them all. And then you stop on whatever profession it is that you want to keep. You know, but you do that so that you were able to push your consortium, Artisans Consortium reputation, so that you can push it and get it into value. Because that would allow you to come over here to the vendor and then get the next book for an additional, and you did that all for an additional 10 knowledge. Why were people able to do that? Because that additional 10 knowledge early allowed them to get to a point to craft something maybe that other people weren't able to craft quite as well, and they could control the market, and they could then make big gold because they were able to invest so heavily on doing so. I didn't do that. I know people who did. It's not frustrating that they did. It's more frustrating that they are now forever ahead, and I can't, you know, do anything about it, right? Like, I can't catch up now. There's no way to. But they've already done it, so they get to keep their lead, and it's not going to go anywhere, and that's frustrating. And you can make an argument that I'm not casual, at least on the profession side and gold making. And I'm still behind. And I find that super frustrating. And I can't imagine what a lot of the actual casual players who don't have, I don't know, don't have 100,000 gold or something, don't have 10,000 gold, and they're looking for ways to make gold, how are they feeling? Not just is it kind of hard to wrap your head around all the different quests, all the different things that you need to do in order to progress. I mean, it's a little bit mixed, right? Because I think going out, I think they're marked off my map now, but like some of the treasures for getting your extra skill points on top of talking to your master, which again, I think they're all marked off my map, so I can't show any of them, you know, but like I know the tailoring one is like, what, up here? Up on a ledge, way up here, I think. Either that or it's over here, regardless. You know, all that kind of stuff, like hidden in the world to do, is really cool. It was really cool early. But it goes from being really cool to being mandatory to being, you just need to get them all. You need to get them all fast so that you can get all that skills so that you can use it. Yeah, it could definitely be frustrating for somebody who's new to gold making. And we're just talking about leveling and getting skill points. We haven't really talked yet about how to actually make gold. I kind of already talked about it, but the best example I have for what you have to do to make gold might be the Fang Adornments. Now, this goes the same for enchanting. There's definitely the same for like the gems and things of that nature. There's one of two ways to make gold. Through crafting professions is what I'm talking about. You either need to straight up make something at tier 3, or you need to inspire Brock enough to where you can make your gold back, and then some. That's a lot to ask for casual. I mean, the Fangs, again, if I craft this thing at T2, it's 16 gold, but it cost me 1,400 gold for the attempt, basically. Yes, if I hit a tier 3, woo! That's 7.7k. And then if I miss 3 or 4 in a row, it starts to add up real quick, and then I'm not making gold. You know, once I have everything going, I have like 31% chance to inspire. First of all, this stat's broken. It ain't 31%, let me tell you that. It's probably half of that on average for me. Maybe my luck is absolute just dog water. Like, it might be really, really bad. It's, you know, something like that where it's like, well, it's not a big enough sample size. Well, it cost me 150,000 gold to do. How much of a sample size do you want? Like, again, if we bring that same thing and look at a casual, not just you have to spend the gold to level, you have to do everything, you have to get all these points, you have to invest, you have to do all your weekly stuff, you have to do all these things, and then you're taking a shot at hitting. God forbid you don't have multiple hundreds of thousands of gold to make a large enough match to where it should hopefully equal out. God forbid you don't have just that gold lying around that you can invest and hope to God it works. And that's just where crafting is right now. You either straight up craft this tier 3, or you go inspiration. The people who are able to take advantage, like myself, to go inspiration, it'll work for a little bit, but once things are able to be pushed to the point where they can craft them straight up, maybe on items that are close, then anybody who's in inspiration, they lose. They're out of that game until they're able to do the same. Because then more people craft them at T3, like straight up, which drives the price of the market down, which means you have zero chance of making gold anymore in that market. And Fang Adornments is just one example. It's happening quite crazily to like enchants and gems. A buddy of mine, he can straight up make some of the T3 like gems and enchants, and even for him the price is falling. But I'm imagining somebody who didn't have as much time investment, who didn't have as much skill points, who didn't do absolutely everything every single week, who maybe went Inspire, maybe put some points where they didn't want to. Yeah, man, that's a dead profession to them for a while. There's not anything you can do. Not casual friendly whatsoever. Something else to briefly talk about on why this stuff isn't casual friendly. So we talked about the knowledge points, which, I mean, once they're marked, you can kind of use a, you know, handy notes or whatever, go around, pick them up, do all that after you've already invested and done the leveling, you know. Then you have to come here and you have your consortium quests, and then you have your work order quests, which you have your work order quests and stuff, and then you have like your actual profession quests. You have all of those to do, which all take time, because again, for another reason, some of the things that drop from these quests just don't drop, and they're absolutely the worst quests in the game, and they're really frustrating, but that's another topic. But then you have stuff like this. I wanted to bring attention to this weak aura. I was trying to look up the weak aura and figure out where the hell I got it, or like where it's actually from, and unfortunately I can't tell you at this exact moment. Maybe I'll pin it down in the comments or something, because it's extremely helpful. But here's a weak aura I have to use on all my characters, and it's tracking all of the knowledge that I can get from other sources that aren't explicitly told to you. Some of you guys might not even know about some of these, but like for instance, I probably should have made this bigger so people could see. But, you know, you have your Draconic Treaties. So that's like sending a work order so that Inscriptionist can make these for you. This marks if this character has done it. I still need to get my Inscription one. I still need to get my Alchemy one. If you look now, there's a curious Jarden rune from Jarden enemies for Inscription. They will draft like a knowledge book. So, and this is a weekly thing. Once it's done, it'll get marked off the list, and I know I've done it. You know, here's Dragonkin enemies, another one for Inscription. As you can see, Decaying Phlegm to get my Rousing, you know, I'll get that from the Rousing Decay enemies. That's an Alchemy one. The Splinter, I gotta kill that, and then I can get 2 each week from either Disturbed Dirt or a Scouts pack. The fact that I have to use a weak aura to track what I do and what I haven't done is not casual friendly. Like, it's just not. What about the fact that I only recently started doing this? So I at least have 3 weeks now where I know I didn't get all these. And all I'm doing is I'm counting these points of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 between the two professions that I'm potentially missing out on a bunch of points over these 3 weeks. 10 points on one, obviously I probably got some of them, but I think 10 points on one character for 1 week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, that's 30 points I could technically be behind. What about on all my characters? What about the fact that I have 14 crafters? What about all of those characters? What about the time investment I have to use for all those crafters? Is that casual friendly? I don't think so. I don't have... There's so many other things I want to do in the game, and I can't because I'm doing crap like this constantly. Now, I think Dragonflight is fantastic, and I love the crafting system itself, and I love so much about it. But this, having to track this, having to stay on top of this, plus all my other profession stuff, when I'm somebody who has tons of professions, it is extremely time consuming to try to just keep up. And it's not casual friendly. It's one thing if I only played 1 to 2 characters, right? If I only played 1 to 2 characters and I only had a couple professions. And I talked about this before Dragonflight came out, to where I thought that if you were somebody who had numerous crafters, this is not going to be a fun expansion for you. You're going to be real busy. And I stick to that. I firmly believe that. However, if you're somebody who only has a couple, shouldn't be too bad. But that's not me. I have 14 crafters. I have 3 jewel crafters, 3 enchanters, 3 inscriptionists, 2 alchemists, 3 tailors. The list goes on. A lot of them on characters I don't really want to be on. That I have to go out into the world and do this if I want to keep up whatsoever. Otherwise, I fall the risk of falling behind, not being able to craft something. Maybe people are then able to craft it easier. It starts driving the market down, and then that character can't make gold. It's not casual friendly. It's really frustrating. When you get home from work, you probably don't want to go out and make sure this is done every week. Because again, this takes time. This plus that quest and those 2 and your medal, and God forbid you're having to get your crafting orders done, right? It means you have to jump onto another character and send yourself crafting orders just to get a quest done. Because, God knows we can't find a crafting order on a bench. They're never there. Even if they were there, they're only going to give you a silver anyway. It's just not casual friendly, and it's really frustrating. And I just mostly want people to know that regardless of the difference between how much gold I'm able to make and how much you're able to make, I feel the same way. It is extremely frustrating. But I think I've kind of talked this to death. The TLDR is it's not casual friendly. There's an awful lot you got to do, especially if you're on tons of different crafters. Like every crafter I get on, just think about that. Not just do I have to power level it and get the profession pushed to where I can get all the quests. Then I have, all the 5 or so quests that you have to do. I got to get the work orders in. I got to get all of that done. I got to pick up all of my knowledge in the world. I got to talk to my master. I got to do all of that. Then I have to make sure I get all of this done as well. Then I have to spec, right? And, sucks to be you if you spec'd into something that sucks, or that you don't already have a general idea of the direction you want to go, that you know is going to work for you to make gold, because you can't unlearn and redo it. If you drop this and came back to it, guess what? You're stuck with the spec, right? So if you messed up, which I have I have numerous characters that I really felt like, oh my god, I totally went the wrong direction. and those characters are kind of dead to me at the moment. There's not anything I can do about it. What if you only play 2 characters and you messed up? Your only option is to do a different profession. Like, that's your only option. Anyway, all of that is just the tedium stuff that makes it not casual friendly. What really makes it casual friendly is even after you did all of that, what the hell are you going to craft to make gold? There's not a lot of options, and really the only option is either be able to craft something that's useful straight up at T3, or go the inspiration route and be able to proc them that way and just do your math and understand, once you got all the points in there and got as much as you could, do you have the ability to make profit? It's a lot of work to make gold via crafting professions, especially if you're a casual right now. Alright, I think I've bitched and complained enough. I think you guys all get the point. Hopefully at least some of you feel the same way I do. Some of you might just laugh at me and think otherwise. It's whatever. We're all entitled to our own opinion. I was really feeling it from some of the comments, and it made me want to talk about it a little bit. So that's done. Now, where can we go from here? What if you are casual and you're like, yeah, that's cool, I agree with you, but how do I make gold? What are my options? Well, I'll break down what I feel like you could do. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of options. The most obvious ones are skinning, mining, and herbalism, right? Doesn't matter how you really set your points. You're going to go out into the world and you're going to find stuff, and you don't have to craft anything, and what you're getting is free, and you put it on the auction house. That's the easy answer. Is it good answer? Is it good gold per hour? Like, hell no, not compared to what I make, but is it an option? Absolutely. That is still the brain dead option. Go grab 2 gathering professions and gather. Some of you don't want to do that. Some of you want to be able to use this really cool new crafting system. And I'll try to give you a couple answers, but I'm telling you, there's not many, because it's basically crafted tier 3 or bust right now. And we're only like 3 to 4 weeks into the expansion, but that's where we're at. And here in a couple weeks, it's going to be, guess what? You can't inspire. You damn well have to craft a lot of these things straight up T3 or it's bust. Not casual friendly, but what options do you have? Let's take a look at them. I'll mention it again, but the Crimson Combatant patterns, again, this is going to be something that's server specific, so there's going to be a little bit more room to potentially make some good gold on them. However, they could also be dead on your server. This is server specific, and you'll have to look into it. On the plus side, which I didn't even talk about, but like if you want all your skill points, that means you basically have to buy all of these patterns, because they're easy skill points on the first time crafting bonus. Not a lot of people talk about that, but if you really want to push your profession, guess what? You basically have to buy every damn pattern available. Now, the Crimson Combatant gear. This stuff is, like right now, this one shows like a minimum buyout of like 7,300. Only cost me 1,000 gold to craft. On my server, that in particular is worth crafting. A lot of the leather and mail have been the best for me in terms of like profits. The cloth hasn't been nearly as good. There's sometimes negative profit there. There's honestly sometimes some of these will have negative profit too. Kind of looks like most of them are pretty okay right now. But crafting your Crimson Combatant gear every single day, trying not to lowball. If you make a 343, try to price them at the other 343s. If you make a 340, try to, maybe have those prices a little bit lower than 343, so on and so forth. I would say you probably really want to be able to craft these at 343 though, but luckily for you, it does not take a whole lot of skill to be able to do so, so that's not exactly an issue. But like if we go ahead and take a look at my numbers, taking a look at my numbers, that's 2.8 million made in the last 30 days off of Crimson Combatant. I would argue that this is not counting to how much gold I've put into it, right? Like my crafting costs. I would argue that on average, because I have some that sell at good prices, especially early, right? Especially back at the beginning when things were really 95k for plans and stuff like that. Like, some of these things did sell pretty high based on how much it costs to make them. I would say it's probably averaged out now to maybe 50% or better in terms of crafting cost. In other words, half of that was probably profit. At least 1.5 million of this was profit, is my guess. So it still works. They still sell. I still sell through multiple sets every single day. And I mostly have only done it with leather and mail. I only recently got back into doing it with cloth, and I don't even have a blacksmith because that's a whole nother issue. But my point is, they could potentially be some good gold for you. And just keeping up on them, crafting them, setting them, going to do other stuff, noticing that you have mail, you know, whether it's on your main or, you know, you're at your title screen, go, oh, look, mail, go on there, take a look, run through, do a quick cancel scan, repost, you know, repost anything, like, you know, a lot of this stuff needs to get reposted. I'll go ahead and repost this, and once I kind of sell through some of this and I notice that some of my stuff is gone, you know, then I'll just go do another crafting session, and I will, you know, restock what's been gone, right? I don't think I have to tell you guys how to do that. I'm not using TSM or anything like that for this. I'm literally having to go to an item and scroll over it, and I see it's in inventory of this character, and I'm just going like this, and I'm checking the inventory, and I'm seeing, you know, like this one. This is one that needs to get crafted. It's not in inventory anywhere, so I know, like, oh, I need to craft this one. So yeah, and I just constantly have the materials, and I recraft and repost. Like what I'm doing right now, I'll go ahead and I'll repost all of these, and then I'll log off the character and I'll check back in a couple hours, you know, or a little bit later today. When I was making the big gold last week, I wasn't doing this at all because I was making too big of gold and it wasn't worth my time to even swap over and repost because the gold I was making was insane. That, and sometimes it's wrong, and it made me craft multiple of some of these when I personally only craft one at a time. Like, I want one of each piece up. That's just how I do it. You guys can do it your way. But again, you saw some of the crafting costs of these. Like, it's at least over double what I'm getting back, and they sell. They absolutely, like, there you go. There's one right there at 9.5. I bet that costs 1,500 to make. They all sell. So if I were you guys, especially if you had a blacksmith, which let's go take a look. I don't even know what the crafting cost is for some of the blacksmith stuff. But if you look at some of the Crimson blacksmith stuff, like, yeah, there's some stuff like in that 2K range, which kind of scares me a little bit. But there's definitely a few that are way above that. I don't know what the crafting cost is because I don't have a blacksmith. And again, this is server specific. So if we go in and look at, you know, the cloths are a little bit better, but not amazing. But there's definitely some pieces that are definitely profit. Like, it's not even close. Anyway, that is something that you could do, and that works again with tailoring, leatherworking, and blacksmithing. Get those plans. You need them for the points anyway. Be able to craft them at tier 3, and then just keep posting them, right? Don't be chasing the sale. Don't be like, oh, this is 9.5k. I'm going to post it at 6.5 because I'm still making 4k, and I just want it to sell fast. Doing that doesn't make this crap sell faster. Get the most profit you can for your time. If somebody undercuts you at 9.5, whatever. Either sit there and constantly undercut it like this, you know, every few minutes if you really want that sell, or just come back later. Don't be a dick. Let everybody get some profit. Anyway, that's my number one thing. There's not many things to actually craft consistently to make profit. There's a couple, but that's the one thing I can think of that is still making me a tremendous amount of gold. And even when I'm not pushing gold making hard, it is always raking me in a decent amount of profit every single day. So this one takes a little bit more time investment, but I wanted to bring it up because there's a reason why I did it. I did it because I believe it's going to be a lot harder to make gold via a lot of the crafting professions, and I wanted to set myself up a way to make a little bit passive quote-unquote gold. And for me, I decided that I have numerous characters that are pushing Azure Weave Bolts, as well as the Chrono Weave Bolts. So this is on Draconic Needlework. You don't have to have this many points in. These stupid nodes aren't even working to like lower the cooldown and get like the cooldown back faster. I don't understand, but this is still broken. All you really need is this point to at least be able to make it. And the hard part is coming up enough. You need to, like, this character was doing something different. This is where I talk about how some of my characters are a little bit bricked based on what they were doing. I need to get this inspiration wheel maxed out. Kind of like I talked about in the Fangs. You can go back and look at that video. But what I would do is I would max inspiration first, then get the ability to make the Azure bolts, and then start paying attention to your skill and how much it takes to craft. Reason for that is these have a really high recipe difficulty, so I think you would have to get to like 213 and fill out the aspiration wheel. Not 213, maybe it would be 225. Either way, you'd have to get to a point to where your proc of inspiration, like this says it gives me 163, and then you just have to do the math on like your inspiration proc plus your skill. So in this case, that's 279 plus 163. So if I procced, it's basically 442 skill, which is way more than enough, right? You need to get to the point to where you can proc. One, you have to have a ton of inspiration, and then two, you want to get to the point where you can proc tier 3 when you do inspire. Then it's a matter of reducing your costs. Then you just need a little bit more skill so that you can start using tier 2 or tier 1 materials. Like, I do think I need a little bit more skill. I'm really close. This is doing the math based on having 3 tier 3s. I might be close to doing it in tier 2s. Now, why does that matter? Because the crafting cost. Right now, this shows... Here, let's see. Let's go back here and do a quick search. Have it searched up again. See what the current prices are. So these are about 3,200 gold. Let's just say that. Tier 2s are 3,200. You say, let's say 2,600. Actually, these two together. Let's say that's 2,800 together because you need one of each. 2,800 plus 3 of these. You know, you're already at 31, 32, almost 33, I think. Quick math. So right now, if I have to use tier 3s, the tier 2s I'm going to make, I'm going to lose just a little bit of gold. Luckily, it's just a little bit, to where if I have inspiration procs, I only have to hit a couple Azure Weave bolts and tier 3, and I make profit, right? That's not taking into account resourcefulness, multi-craft if you get lucky, and things of that nature. But point is, this one's not that hard, at least currently. This can change in a week to make profit. And the thing is, if I can get my skill just a little bit higher, which again, I have all these points up here on my weak aura, that I can go out and probably do this week, and then have the ability to use tier 2 instead of tier 3. And for me, tier 2, you're saving 150 gold per. I'm going to save 450 gold. If I save 450 gold, that means even the T2s I'll be crafting will be profit, and the T3s will be a lot of profit. That's currently what I'm setting up for, and I have numerous tailors for this exact reason. They're pushing the other ones that are done correctly. I should have probably gotten on one of them. Are pushing deep inspiration. As soon as they max out their inspiration, then it's a matter of getting the ability to get the Azure Weave Bolt or the Chrono Weave Bolt, and then it's just paying attention to your skill number as well as your inspiration. You have to get this to T2 in order to proc T3, and then you just need to do the math between your inspiration and your skill to make sure that when you do inspire that you proc a T3. And then once you get it to that point, you don't need any more skill. Then it's just a matter of getting inspiration. Where do you get inspiration from? Well, there's some of the smaller nodes, right? So first of all, this full wheel, right? This full wheel is all inspiration, and it's going to help you an awful lot. And then I think, I'm not sure, yeah, like this here, this gives 10 inspiration using Azure Weave. Eventually, there's this node that gives 10. I don't know if these do. That's multi-craft. Like, obviously, if getting some multi-craft would be insane. Like, you multi-craft a tier 3 and you're going to be real happy. And then, I think back in the main, are these all skill? Yeah, I think all these ones are skill. anyway, there's things of that nature. And then once you got to the point of like, you know, oh yeah, this final node here, a little bit more inspiration, a little bit more resourcefulness, all of that kind of stuff does add up to just lower the cost and make it a little bit more worthwhile. Anyway, this is one of the only options I can think of like what is a craft and forget it kind of thing. Well, I think this is. I have it pushed to where I really only have to make them once a week, so it's even less time spent. It's just a matter of pushing it to this point to where I can do this. My hope is it stays this way, because again, there was bugs abound with this, and there was way too much of this on the market, and that's why the prices were low and terrible. But now that that's kind of gone away and that a lot of supply has been used, it's still probably damaged the market as a whole. But we're now getting to a point where these, because it's working correctly for the most part, or at least it's not being abused, where I can actually make gold crafting these now. And that wasn't available to me in the first 2 weeks unless I just took advantage of the bug, which I did not do. Let me rephrase that. I did do it once and I noticed it was a bug, and then I didn't do it again because I was like, yep, nope, that's ban worthy. I'm not doing that. But once I realized it was a bug, and I wasn't just going to sit there and mass produce Azure Weave cloths when I should have a cooldown. You know, now that that's been fixed and it has a cooldown, even though the cooldown's not working correctly, I'm at the point where I can pretty much just do these. I'm hoping once a week. I haven't really done the math. I'm trying to see, since I'm like maxed out, like how long does it take to get to 30? I wish it was working correctly, but I should be able to just come in here like once a week, mad craft these, as many as I can, and then hopefully rake in some benefits. On my other character, I was able to make 20 this week. Yeah, it should have been 20, and I think I made like, because of inspiration procs and everything like that, I made like 170k profit or something. And that's just a weekly craft for me. Like, that's good profit if you can set up for it, and I have numerous characters that can do that. Just printing that money every single week. Anyway, I just wanted to point this out because there's not a lot of options for you guys. I think combatant gear is one of the best things because I think that's going to be used throughout the entire expansion. Kind of like the level 50 gear, level 60 gear back in Shadowlands. I think that it's just always going to be worthwhile crafting, and then when other people are chasing big crafts, less people are going to craft that kind of stuff, which hopefully will equal having profits. And then one of the only other things that I think is kind of a set it and forget it, log on, make your gold once a week kind of thing is Azure Weave and the Netherweave ones right now, as long, again, as you invested enough to get to the point to doing it. But I do feel like if you did put in the time, it would be worthwhile. Well, I think that'll cover it for today. Kind of a long video, more bitching than anything else. Hopefully it was insightful. Hopefully some of you agree. Hopefully some of you don't agree with me and can give me some reason why, and we can have a good discussion about it. Yeah, I really just kind of wanted to talk about it as a whole and how I felt about it, because I am a believer in like perception is reality, right? So you're gonna have these people like, no, it's not that way. It's kind of like that whole, like, you know, you're struggling with something like, oh, well, just get good. It's like, yeah, no, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. I remember watching a video of running into a guy who was complaining about that, like, Cobalt Assembly, like, PvP quest, and how just, like, unfun it was to just go down there and get, you know, like, insta-kill and blah, 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 and, you know, and other people are like, ah, just get good. It's like, no, man, that's not the answer. That dude's perception was of how bad this quest is, you know, because he can't complete it and he can't do it, and it makes him feel bad. He's not wrong. He felt that way. Those feelings are real, right? Yeah, sure, in hindsight, now he can go back and do some change, make some things and make that better for himself, but it didn't change the initial experience he had. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with this crafting system, is seeing people's frustrations. Like, these are real frustrations that people are having. Yeah, there's people out there making hundreds of millions of gold. But for every couple of people that are out there making hundreds of millions of gold, or people like me who made a gold cap in a week, there's people out there who ain't making anything because they just don't even know where to go, don't know where to look. There's not an easy answer. It's just difficult. It's time consuming. And that is what I wanted to talk about, because those thoughts, those feelings are real that these people are having, and it's hard to come up with what the answer is. I know what I would do, but like what I would do isn't necessarily the answer. It's just one of the things I think would help. And that's if we didn't have this damned regional auction house. I think that would open up the door to where like those people would be able to look and be like, oh, these are really expensive. I can potentially push to craft these and make some profit that way. And that's just not the case right now, because it's tier 3 or bust at the moment. And half the time with those tier 3s, you're not making as much as you would expect to make. So, and as every week that goes by and everybody gets more skill points that are making those margins are going to push smaller and smaller. That are going to push even more people out of the market. So, anyway, I'll try not to talk about that anymore. Again, hopefully this was insightful. Hopefully this can spark a conversation. I'd love to know what you guys think. But, yeah. On a different note, I think as of this video, I'm up to like 876 subs. Oh my goodness, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. We are well on the way to 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers basically will just open the door to me and let me know that what I'm doing is useful and helpful to you guys. Yeah, there's no other way for me to know if my content is good unless people want to watch it. So we've had some pretty good views, at least for me, on recent videos and things of that nature, but you know, those views need to turn into subs to know that you guys are going to come back and watch the content and enjoying it, and if you're getting something from it. And in all honesty, I'm not trying to sell you to sub. If you don't want to, I'd love to know what I could do to earn a sub. Honestly, that's what I'm trying to do. What sort of content would make you guys come back consistently? Not necessarily watch every video or like every video or comment on any video, but what would make my content worth your while? Is there something I could do for you that would help you out? I think the conversation today on some of the comments kind of showed me a little bit of that. There is the vast majority of the people who are watching this kind of stuff are people who are struggling to make gold, and they need those easy answers. I do think that is content that you guys might need or want. Now for me, it's trying to find some of those answers for you. But that's kind of why I made this video, because that's the frustrating part. I promise you I've been really trying to come up with good actual crafting methods. Not, you know, fishing or cooking or this or that, but like actual legit crafting methods, because I know a lot of you, that's what you're looking for. You want to use this new fun crafting system and just make some profits so you can, you know, afford your consumables and afford your enchants and stuff like that. So anyway, very long-winded video. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch it. If there's anything I could do better, please let me know. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.